Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, right? All right, so it looks like it's starting. I will capture this link and we will get rolling. Actually, I'll throw a comment in here. My friends, feel free to ask any questions. Great. So welcome everyone to another episode of the Cross Project Council meeting as a part of the OpenJS Foundation. Today is the 15th of February in the year 2022. Thanks everyone for joining. If you're catching this later on, thanks as well. And let's get into things. Do we have any announcements?
I have a very exciting announcement. Jordan Harband is our new director on our board of directors representing our silver members. So yay, Jordan, congratulations.
Hey, welcome.
Yay. We had an election, and also Alex Liu was reelected as our end user, and Dan Cousineau was reelected as our gold director. And so we'll be putting out a blog today, kind of just reintroducing you to our board of directors and introducing folks to Jordan who are not on calls with us every other day, like Jordan often is. So
that's great.
Yep. What else? News-wise, we have extended our CFPs for OpenJS World to next Friday, February 25th. But if you're watching this, we'll let you know that we give folks a little bit of a grace period on that weekend, just because time zones are so wacky around the world. So we're saying the 25th, but it kind of, if it rolls in on the weekend, we're good with that, because Monday morning we'll be having our program committee take a look at those.
Great.
So, yeah. Great. And then also, in case you missed it, we had a nice bit of news from our member Joyent, who also, Sean Johnson's on our board of directors, and Joyent has contributed the Node.js trademarks to the OpenJS Foundation. And I know this is something that the community has been working on for many years. So we're super grateful for all of that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Really exciting. I'm glad that worked out. Cool.
That's my news. I think that's it. Do you have any news, Joe, Brian?
I don't, but I will ask anything. I know, obviously there is board news there, but anything else with upcoming meetings or anything that we should be aware of?
Next board meeting, Friday, the 25th. So it's on our public calendar. So if y'all don't know, go to the collaboration page and you can just download whatever interests you onto your calendar.
Great. openjsf.org/collaborate. Great.
Cool.
All right. Well, with that, we will move things along. And I'm looking for my page with the agenda for folks who joined the call after I shared this. Here is the meeting notes. Please add yourself. And note takers are greatly appreciated. So if we get into the agenda, the first item on the list here is the issue, excuse me, 826, focus on JavaScript security at OpenJS. We had a good meeting, a working session. What was it, last week? I can't remember. Time really flies. Anyone want to give the update? I see, Robin, you added some action items from that. That's fresh in your mind, you want to share with folks?
Yeah, for some reason I can't go to your notes, my browser. But yeah, I think we had addressed a number of things, primarily, gaps that we have and challenges that we face across projects. So I think that pretty much took up the bulk of our discussion. I think we all do open source well, and we need to encourage more folks from the security community. I think that's fair to say, to build kind of a culture of security around open source and share best practices. We talked about, are there some requirements that we need to set? There's talks at the Linux Foundation, perhaps through the leadership at OpenSSF. Are there some minimum requirements that projects should consider? we did talk about the work that OpenSSF is doing, and just wanted to let you all know that we are having conversations with those, and we'll be looking to get some more support from those organizations who support that. But I think the conversation was just so rich. I know I learned a lot, and we had some takeaways. That one was easy. We were going to set up a Slack channel on security. I think, Joe, you said one already existed. So did you bring it back to life?
I might have said hi, but yeah, it's there. Just security in the OpenJS Slack org.
Okay.
Start leveraging that.
Maybe that's just like for us to start sharing information and news and things like that. That's important. I know there's a lot happening in the world. And then there was, again, such a good conversation. It felt a little that an hour wasn't enough. So we needed a follow-up conversation with that. Our CPC working sessions are kind of booked out topic-wise. We thought we needed maybe kind of an off-calendar working session. And ideally,
sorry, to finish your thought on.
And then ideally bringing some of our security friends along as well, and making it a time zone that perhaps works for more people.
Yeah, I was looking at the calendar, and it's not actually that far booked out. In fact, I think next week is the only week has something, and it's listed as repo cleanup. So I wonder if we should, push off the repo cleanup work and instead get back to security for next week. Start to think through, what are some things we could start doing. And get
What time was that meeting starting?
It would be the same as this week, so it'd be noon next week.
Okay.
Eastern.
Maybe we can get our friends like from Sneak, like Laron and Israel.
Yeah.
Who else? Anybody else? Yeah.
Folks
Not to put them on the spot.
Yeah, NPM folks would be great too.
Yeah.
And I've talked to Laron a little bit in GMs, and they're interested in doing more. So I can reach out to them again and see if they can join. But I guess the question remains: should we do that for next week? What do folks think? I'm into it. I think
sure.
We can maybe make an issue for repo cleanup, and Trail of Bits folks as well. Rich would be good. Although they'll charge us for attending. Maybe we can make I don't know if there's an issue for the repo cleanup, but maybe we can make an issue for that, and people could put in there what they think needs to happen, and maybe that could happen async even until we, I'm sure we'll always have stuff to do in the working sessions, but I could try to get some repo cleanup happening if there are specific things we want to be doing.
Cool. And then I think we talked about a collab space. I think we know that if you're going to have a successful collab space, you need a couple of champions who drive it. So that may, be, a result of some of these meetings, but just threw that out there.
Yeah, I agree. I think it would be a good thing to do, but maybe we'll just let that come naturally as we kind of keep working on it, champions and what the scope of that collab space would look like.
Mm-hmm.
Flesh that out.
Cool.
All right, cool. So I will update the meeting issue to push off the repo cleanup for a week. I'll see if there's an issue for repo cleanup and create one if there isn't. And we'll put security on the list for next week. Cool.
Cool.
That's that. Getting back to it. The next item on the agenda is issue 821, Google Summer of Code. Brian, do you want to comment on this? I know there's great, your description here is good, so people can read that. And it looks like maybe Rich shared it with the TSC a little while ago. I don't know if there's any comments there, but let's talk about this.
Sure. So I had opened that open that issue in the repo in case we wanted to file an application on behalf of the OpenJS Foundation. I haven't seen any activity on that. We should go check it because I haven't looked at it in the last week or so. But the deadline for that is coming up. I believe it's early next week. So if we do, if there are any projects that would like to make use of this, then we should probably get on this fairly quickly.
Any feedback or anything, Rich, or Michael's gone invisible. I can't see him in his chair anymore.
Yeah, I think Google Summer of Code has not always been a great fit for Node for various reasons, and I honestly can't recall what those reasons are. It's nothing about the program. It's just I forget, but it never. We always every year we talk about it and we don't participate. I probably should come with more concrete information than that. It's probably obviously it's been great for a lot of other projects, and I'm sure there are other projects in the OpenJS Foundation that would benefit from it tremendously. So I'm totally supportive. I just don't know that Node is necessarily the right place.
Tierney?
Yeah, for what it's worth, Electron has a new, I guess, collaborator from Postman who's been driving, getting Electron involved in this and been helping, basically doing all the work to get us there. So ideally, we're going to have a couple people who sign up for it as mentors. We're providing the list, but a list of potential topics that we can pull someone for. We're hoping to get it out. The deadline is Thursday or is Monday, which is a holiday. So ideally, you have to get it out by Friday, like the application or whatever. So that's coming, but we're planning on doing it. Ideally, we make it. We might not make that deadline, but we'll see.
Tierney, just so that I am planning my my own end of week here, is Electron going to apply as the Electron project?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's and just in case it was missed in the context here.
Absolutely was. Sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, projects that would like to apply on their own, we absolutely encourage that.
Cool.
This is more just if anybody needs help and wants to do it on the on the foundation, has the foundation handle this, then we're happy to do that as well. So that's it's great to hear that Electron's going through and doing this.
Cool. Yeah, I appreciate that, and I might have the person from Postman reach out to you, Daniel. So
The website redesign stuff always comes to mind, but there's just not someone to really drive that. So I don't think that, and we've talked about it a little bit with the couple of the folks working on that. I don't think there's really a mentor to be able to drive that. But I do wonder about the tooling group. We have a few things we want to be doing. So we have a meeting on Friday. So I will talk to them about it, the Node.js tooling group, and see if we can take advantage of this program. Any other thoughts or comments on this one? No? Okay. I will make a quick note over in here, and then I'll move on to the next agenda item. Cool. Where am I? All right, so next item on the agenda is add dates and reminders to the biweekly CPC meeting template. I actually wanted to do this before this meeting because I think there are some key things that are not being tracked that we need to be tracking, like elections. So I'm going to try and work on this this afternoon. So number one, I get dates into these files or this file, and also so that I know if we have elections coming up, which I think we do. So I should figure that out and get ahead of it.
Yeah, I think the first director representative is around this time.
Yeah. So I will work on that. And I don't know what else there is to say about it at the moment. So I will move on. Next issue is 815. This is the license check support and tooling. I don't know if there's much more that we want to talk about this, or what we think needs to happen here for this particular issue. Michael, you opened it. I know we've had a lot of good conversation here, but what anybody got any thoughts about this one?
I think the closing thing would be, is the foundation team going to spend time on it? Right, like we had some discussion. I think we exchanged what we were hoping for there. So I think from our perspective, But from my perspective, I opened this for like, is there some help we can get? And so we need a yes, and here's our timeline, or sorry, no, we don't have resources. I think that would let us close it out.
Well, what's the ask though? Is it building out the tool that Jordan has, or is it like LFX tooling that we're interested in?
I don't think we've pre-designed the answer, right? Like we talked about, here's the thing that we want, the challenge we're trying to address. Jordan's pointed out he's got some tooling that could help with that. It's like, is the Linux Foundation team going to take ownership of providing a solution to projects of some sort? And I'm not going to tell them then, hey, do it like this or do it like that, right? It's like, are they interested? Do they have cycles? Do they agree this is a good project service to provide? And if so, great, then we can help sort of support them in that effort, right? If the answer is no, then it's kind of like we're on our own and we can figure out what to do, right?
I think what I heard from Shubra, even before and after, is yes, they could make it happen. Bandwidth is, I never know. They could have a backlog, I would say 3 months, maybe. I guess the question is, Jordan, do you think that yours could be, you think you could work with Shubra on something, or do you think that they're too different, or no?
I mean, I think it's certainly worth a conversation.
Okay.
The primary driver for me is that most tools for repo management are built with the overly limited view of within a single org or within a single user account. And I have like 8 orgs. And so I need something that uses my GitHub account and checks everything. And so that's what I built. So yeah, I mean, the actual, once you have a list of repos, the actual functionality that we've been talking about here is relatively straightforward. And that part could certainly be shared or cargo culted across the 2 projects.
And
Okay.
even for Node, we have 2 orgs, so the multi.
Exactly. Node actually even has 3.
I don't think this is a super complicated problem. It's just
Right.
somebody taking ownership and having the energy to actually push it forward, right?
What is the
Right.
specific problem? I'm replying to the an email, but I did I miss the specific problem or are we talking about it from a previous discussion?
Yeah, this is from a previous discussion. This issue is like in the Node project, we have lots and lots of repos in our organization.
Mhm.
And we try and make sure that they have proper licenses, but like new orgs get created, we bring orgs in and we sort of do it all manually. And my point was, it would be very useful to have a tool that doesn't check your dependency licenses, but just says in our repo, like we've got 100 repos, 125 repos in the Node org. Today, the tool would confirm they all use a license which is approved under our OpenJS Foundation governance, or no, this one's missing a license, or this one has a different license, but okay, yeah, we know that's approved by the board, that's fine. Like to help somebody like me to feel comfortable that we've got our ducks in line in terms of what we've got for our foundation guides. And I could see other projects might have the same thing, right? And the reason we were talking to the Linux Foundation is I think the same kind of thing is going to apply to all sorts of anybody who's in a foundation and has some of these requirements. The maintainers are gonna. It would be helpful to have something that helps them say, yeah, for these requirements, there's an easy way to make sure you're complying. That's all.
Mhm. I mean, at the very least, npm has also built this dashboard already. With their status board thing, like you can see the full list of licenses in addition to
Yeah, but that's
data.
I think perhaps repo specific, but I want to let Emily speak and then we can dig back.
Is it just me, or does this sound an awful lot like a Google Summer of Code project?
That's an interesting.
If there was a champion for it, absolutely.
I mean,
Right? Like
given that I originally built my tool with a similar program called Major League Hacking on their fellowship program, it absolutely seems like something that could work for that.
That's a great point, Emily. So let's put a pin in that. But yeah, I think what you had shared there, Tierney, the status board is that's repo specific, right? Where I think Michael and was looking for like cross org kind of stuff.
I mean, you could just put multiple orgs in it. Like it's not a, or you could have multiple status boards and like, you know, a different for it is repos, sure, but like the org doesn't have a license. The repos in the org does. It's that detail is irrelevant to this specifically.
Yeah, I mean, I think that any dashboard like this, including NPMs, theoretically should work just fine. And
Yep.
the main reason that I didn't use any of those is because every single one of them's list of repos is a single org or a hard-coded list of orgs. And I wanted a tool that discovers based on my GitHub token all the repos that I can manage, which is across multiple orgs and also users. And user-owned repos tend to be ignored whenever GitHub adds features. So this status board seems great, and it very well might work well also.
Interesting.
Yeah, what it really comes down to is like, can we have a standard way of doing this rather than us inventing it? You know, if the foundation, if the Linux Foundation at level said, hey, to all the projects, this is the way we recommend you keep, you know, here's the tool which will help you meet the requirements which typically you have, then that's exactly what I was looking like. The actual implementation, I don't really care as long as there's somebody's figured out for me how to do it, right?
Yeah, same.
It makes sense to have it in the LFX dashboard because that's exactly what they want, is to get requests from the projects, from the communities, and have that, you know, have that one view.
Well-
So why don't I can follow up with Shubra, have him assign an engineer. Again, it's just not maybe as fast. You know, it may take a little bit longer depending what other stuff they have in the pipeline. But
Tierney has their hand up, but I'll just say real quickly, you know, can we combine those two thoughts with the LFX, Shubra, and the Google Summer of Code? Just put that out there. But Tierney, you had a comment?
On that specifically, I don't know if that worked because LFX is an open source as far as I'm aware. But like I guess I'd be fine with delegating to this to LFX. I just want a commitment from them that it'll be done. Like that's the big thing. I know that they get a lot of requests and are very eager to do things. So I want to make sure that like this is something that actually gets done. And if it's not, like telling us no, we're not going to do this is totally fine. Just I don't want like a maybe halfway commitment in it to stretch on forever.
Yeah, I think I don't mind somebody saying, hey, yes, but 3 months is when we'll start. But I agree, like we want the you know, we think this is an important thing. It's something we should provide. We're going to do it, but yeah, we can't get it to 3 months. But
Yeah, timeline. would be
so like
great.
maybe or maybe not. Yeah.
Yeah, and I wonder, I don't know how LFX is built, and you know, I hear your comment, Tierney, about it not being open source. I wonder if we could use Google Summer of Code and Jordan's tool to flesh it out. This is what we're looking for, and then you know that would at least fill the gap for now, and then LFX can incorporate that same functionality as they see fit.
I think for the Google Summer of Code, it just comes down to like who's going to be the mentor, because that's a non-trivial, you know, if they can't start work for 3 months, then that's going to be the same problem.
Yeah.
I don't like, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
that was an arbitrary number.
Yeah, I know you mean, yeah, exactly. You pick the number, but yeah, whatever the number is,
Right,
if
right.
whenever Google Summer of Code starts, that, you know, if they don't have any cycles, it doesn't really help to have somebody who needs a mentor,
Yeah.
if you know what I mean. Yeah. But if it does line up, that's not a bad idea.
Brian?
I think, you know, from what I had heard in the discussion, just if we have something that's already ready to go, I would say go with it. If that capability evolves in LFX, then we can always revisit this later.
Yeah.
One of my ways of approaching these, honestly, is that if there's something that works well enough right now, it will take something else a bit of time in order to work well enough too. So
I
in
I
that
don't think we
meantime,
have, I mean, what else,
Yeah.
what else is there? I don't know.
I-
Like, we don't have
I-
anything set up in the org.
yeah, I think really our two off the shelf options right now are what Jordan created, and then the second one would be if we wanted to really do some serious license scanning. Linux Foundation can also do Fossology scans and interpret them, and that's I think that may be not meeting the need that Jordan is describing here of automatically discovering things. But that's I think those are the two which are right in front of us with LFX potentially being a commitment down the road. But if we're looking at what we have in front of us, I think it's one of those two directions.
Yeah, I'm kind of back to, like, it's something I think would be good, but I don't know that like I'm gonna have time to make that my top priority to go and look at a tool. And so I was raising it as like, hey, everybody has this problem. Can we get some help to help solve it? Like in that context, I'd almost rather wait for something which will be like, hey, here's our way that we do it across the projects, rather than putting together something that's specific to us, right? Because I don't have the time to do that. So it comes back to, I think, Tierney's, like, if there's going to be this is important, it's going to be something we want to do sort of standardized, we think we can add value across projects, I'd prefer to wait than to cobble something together now on our own, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, it seems to me like the path forward is to see if LFX, if Shubra and team can put it on their calendar and give us a date that they think that they can hit. And then, see how that goes. And in the meantime, if somebody does have cycles and wants to flesh it out in a tool, then cool. But knowing myself and others' availability, it would be great if LFX could manage it.
I also kind of see it as like, this is a first simple example of the kind of things, like, we've got some guidance at the OpenJS level. This is the first simple one, which I know of, that like I've been like, okay, well, we've got all these repos. Are we keeping on top of it as well? But there's going to be there is already others that we've talked about. Like if we say on the security front that everybody should have a security.md, right? Hopefully we can then, extend the tool to say, okay, well, we're already scanning all the repos from the org. We can check for that too. And just when when we onboard a new project, one of the first things we could do is say, okay, well, we're going to point this tool at your repo, and part of the onboarding is fixing up all the things that it complains about.
Yep.
Right. So I see it kind of like as it's not just solving this one thing, but can we start to work with the LFX or with the Linux Foundation to get some common maintainer support things that make sense across the projects? Like, we could do it across OpenJS, but it's really the Linux Foundation that has more of that resource, I think, to be able to do that today.
Yeah, and I think too, this gets back to some of our conversations around tech strategy, right? I mean, if we want to say this is a good home, here are the things we can provide, then that adds to that story.
Exactly. Like, not only do we have the guidance that is what we suggest or require you to do, but we've got these tools that help you do that. Is a good part of that tech strategy. That's a very good point.
All right. Well, we've kind of talked about this for a while. Should we comment on the issue that see if Shubra can give us an estimate on that? Okay, cool. And then we'll just see how that progresses. Great.
We do a follow-up. Who would like to be in that meeting with Shubra? Jordan, obviously.
I'm happy to be there too, just
Awesome.
since I kicked it off.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you too, Robin. Next issue is 786. This is an issue Toby created a while ago, clarify requirements around COC violation. I know, Toby, you got a draft PR open, which is 830.
Yeah, and we did some work last week too, all of us, which I have notes for, which I haven't shared yet, and I apologize. Let me turn those notes into something that maybe I add to that issue, or do a separate doc and share in the next CPC meeting, if that's fine with you all.
Sure. That sounds good to me. All right, so we will wait until next time to talk more about this. And for folks who are don't want to wait that long, keep an eye on the issue, and maybe there'll be more there soon. Cool.
I mean, if folks really want an update now, I can take like 10 minutes to go look at my notes and figure it out, and then we can go get back to this issue at the end of the call. If you're fine waiting for 2 weeks, it's up to you all.
We only have one more issue on the agenda.
Okay, so I'll dig in while you do that issue.
Okay. We'll see you in a minute. So the next item on the agenda is issue 756, create proposals for the community fund. This is a longstanding issue. My last comment from 28 days ago is to check out the repo and to further flesh that out. I see Rich, is Rich still on the call? No, okay. Rich, maybe you have an input, Michael. Rich mentioned this at the TSC on the 26th of January. I don't know if there's any.
I don't remember any feedback or anything like that, but he did mention that, hey, this is going on. If you're interested, this is where you can get involved.
Yeah. Okay, great.
I think one of the takeaways we've had at one point on this issue is that it's pretty broad and maybe we need individual issues. There's one issue in particular, the thank you program, that we've sort of done a little bit of work on, but then we had our standards working group meeting last week, 2 weeks ago, and we were talking through some programming, and we thought we were talking about doing like a thank you or an award, recognition and award sort of program. And then we thought, well, gosh, ECMA, and we're not sure about W3C, they do that already. Is this something that we can roll into the CPC and use our OpenJS world as an opportunity to give some recognition? Similar, CNCF has the Chop Wood Carry Water Awards, community awards. So I wanted to sort of open it up with you all and think about, is this something we would like to do in the CPC?
Yeah, I think a thank you program would be fantastic. I shared a link to this thing that just went out recently, the OSS.love by Netlify, which I think is really very nice. It would be great to do a thank you program of sorts.
Okay, I think our, like, I just pasted the link to the repo we created. We have a number of issues opened.
Okay.
Yep.
Really and I think, Robin, you'd volunteered to fill in.
We do. I have a deck with swag, with swag options. And I think that's more the, do we, push that to the projects and then they thank people. And then I'm also asking, do we also want to, at a foundation level, give some community awards at the OpenJS World Conference, something a little more public,
Yeah,
that sounds like a good idea under the thank you. Like it could be another
Awesome.
section of like, we do thank yous by giving the projects to be able to do this. And then once a year at our conference, we also do this. Here's how you nominate whatever. And
Okay.
Do we, a thought that pops in my head is, should we use a working session to work on a thank you program, especially since OpenJS World is not that far away?
I think we've spent a lot of time talking about it. I think, don't I think what would be really good is the written down, like we have that structure now in the repo. I think the most effective, so I could see us having a working session, but I'm thinking we should have like a concrete proposal of what the words would look like there, or use that working session to put it together.
Yeah.
So the beautiful thing about the Linux Foundation family is we share all of our great programs. So I'm sure I can, on the awards in particular and the nominations and whatnot, I can pull a draft together for us to review, swag programs separately. And then we can use maybe the working session just to think about. Yeah.
And really ideally would be a PR into that community fund repo that adds the program in.
Okay.
Because that would make it very, very concrete, right? Like it would be like, we've got the structure that says, like, if we look at the one we have for travel fund, we've got the sections like, we've got how you're reimbursed. We have applications in terms of collaborator applications, how to apply. And actually we even have, like, for the standards participation, we have sections. So, but if like a PR that put it in there, that would, I think, make it really concrete. And at the end of that session, we might be able to just say, yeah, let's approve and land it, right? And tweak it. And
Yeah, I think that's great. And Robin, if you want to, powwow before next meeting, so we can try to aim for having a PR in for some bones of a thank you program or details. And with that in mind, the working session schedule would be next week would be security, and then 2 weeks after that would be thank you program, community fund, which gives us 3 weeks to kind of really put something together to chew on in that working session.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. All right, great.
Okay, I'm ready to fill you in on the previous issue if you want.
Sounds good. Let's do it.
Okay, so it was 786. So we had done some work a while back now in one of our regular sessions like today's. And notably, Tierney had suggested a bunch of additions to the code of conduct, the additional document that goes with the code of conduct, which is the Foundation Code of Conduct Requirements.md, which I'm linking to here. And so we had sort of come up with a list of what we wanted in there. And so when I started to work on the pull request, finally, not that long ago, I actually noticed that most of it was actually in that document, except sort of like the requirements were very much embedded in sort of the prose and were kind of like hard to make out. So what I'm proposing to do is turn more of that document here into sort of like a list of requirements to make it sort of like clear what's expected and not have, you have sort of like things where it's sort of like implied that you need a mailing list and that, et cetera, right? So that was sort of like the first part of our conversation. And then we dug into things that we hadn't discussed yet, but thoughts were would be useful to add sort of to this document and elsewhere. The first thing was that our events are actually under the Linux Foundation Events Code of Conduct and not the other Code of Conduct. And so it felt useful to actually add this in the Code of Conduct itself. Another thing that we suggested and thought that we'd bring to the CPC for discussion was that now that we have a footer, was the trademark policy, the cookie policy, the privacy policy. That's sort of like a template that projects can just like pull in and stick at the bottom of the website. It felt kind of logical to add the code of conduct directly from there. So that was a suggestion that was made during that call. Was some sort of like a really short, eventually like a short a piece of text around it that we could share, we could discuss once it's in the pull request. We also discussed merging the CPC panel and the escalation panel, because right now we have the CPC is supposed to handle certain cases, and then we're supposed to have like a COCP, which sort of code of conduct panel is supposed to handle other things. It's kind of like unclear which is responsible for what. It feels like a lot of like red tape for something that could be simpler. So we wanted to sort of like simplify that and have, instead of like a large number of people, 3 or 4 people max, and actually have those people named, because one of the things we wanted to have as a requirements for projects was for people that would be responding to a CPC violation to be named, so that if like the person that's responsible for the violation is also in the panel, you're aware of it upfront, and that doesn't come as like an additional surprise in an already difficult situation. And so we realized that we didn't have that for us. So that was the first step, was actually like getting our house in order before asking projects to do so. And then the last bit was linking the code of conduct more visibly from the openjsf.org, because it was sort of like in an embed in a submenu somewhere. And Brian just did that right away after the call last week. And so it's now at the bottom along with like the other important policies that we have. So that's kind of what we discussed last week. And the next steps are for me to actually finish the PR and then pull all of those suggestions in the same PR, if that's okay with you, and then have a discussion about the whole thing together the next time we talk.
Sounds
And
good
that's
to
it.
me.
Yep, thumbs up. Cool. Thank you, Toby.
You're welcome.
It's a productive working session.
It was, right?
Yeah, love that.
Was.
Mm.
But I look forward to those updates and, feeling like that's in a better place and
Agreed, yes.
cool. Any comments, questions, thoughts, anything? No? Right on. Well, we are at time, not at time, we're at the end of our agenda. We already talked about the working sessions that are upcoming, which is at the end of the agenda, and to check on dates, which I will work on that soon too. I already updated the meeting issue that has the schedule for working sessions, so that's up to date. Do we want to call it a wrap and do any private chats, or what are people's thoughts?
I'm good to wrap.
Yeah, let's call it a wrap and stick around if you want to talk about anything, and we'll go from there. Cool. Ending the stream. Thanks everybody for watching. See you